For around $70, you could eat at a buffet 3 times, or you could eat at a Brazilian steakhouse once. How can there be such a price difference, and is it worth the cost? In the US, going to a Brazilian steakhouse is a special occasion that demands setting aside both a good chunk of money and a few hours, if not a full day, to digest. With its well-dressed waiters and opulent decor, Fogo de Chao seems to be a storied carnivore's paradise. However, the franchise, which brought Brazilian barbecue worldwide, is actually relatively new to the fine dining scene, both globally and in Brazil. Before Fogo de Chao landed in Dallas in the late 90s, Americans were used to all-you-can-eat buffets of the Golden Corral variety. They had yet to see a luxury steakhouse that brought an endless buffet to them in the form of premium cuts of beef. In Brazil, a fancy churrascaria will probably run you between $15 to $20, which is pricey by the country's standards. In the US, you can expect to pay upwards of $70 per person for the all-you-can-eat experience at an upscale Brazilian steakhouse. But why exactly are these restaurants so expensive when other buffets cost a fraction of that price? Firstly, it's important to consider the value of what you're getting. High-quality meat is pricey on its own, and at unlimited quantities, you can really get your money's worth, not to mention the salad bar and Brazilian stew bar. Secondly, it's important to remember you're also paying for an experience. What Fogo de Chao describes as the rich heritage of churrasco. You get an all-you-can-eat, diverse selection of meats that comes right to your table. They are sourced from high-quality suppliers, aged and perfectly cooked. Fogo de Chao's name literally translates to fire in the ground or fire pit. This references the restaurant's humble origins in a wooden farmhouse in Brazil's southernmost state. Rio Grande do Sul is the heart of the country's cattle-herding gacho culture and the birthplace of churrasco, which traditionally used a fire pit. The franchise's expansion to Brazilian cities helped elevate Rodizios, or rotation dining, to a point of national culinary pride in the 1980s and 1990s.
My father gave me his gaúcho knife and said, "This is not for cutting, it's for creating." I remember those words every time I see a happy face at Fogo de Chao.
The model of obliging waiters bent on filling your belly started with meat, but it was adapted for all varieties of cuisine. The national favorite remains the steakhouse version, with picanha being the most precious commodity. The exceptionally tender cut of meat is capped with a flavorful layer of fat that, if cooked to perfection, melts in your mouth. It's no coincidence that the first Fogo de Chao in the US opened in the Lone Star State, as Rio Grande do Sul, for all its cool hats and meat-loving, is considered the Texas of Brazil. Naturally, the model was hit, and Fogo de Chao grew to nearly 60 locations in the US, more than they operate anywhere else, even Brazil. Now it remains a premium example of how a dining experience can blend culture and food. Yes, they're expensive, but in return, Rodizios like Fogo de Chao offer a pretty unbeatable selection. Some Brazilian steakhouse meats are better tried than explained, but it's still good to walk into the restaurant knowing what to expect. There's fraldinha, known as flank or skirt steak in the US, which is tougher than other cuts but tastes wonderful when perfectly cooked and sliced thin. Less common at US Rodizios is a type of tri-tip or bottom sirloin called mamina, and a top sirloin known as alcatra, though both are flavorful cuts. There's also costella, ribs you can gnaw right off the bone, and more recognizable cuts like ribeye and filet mignon. And, of course, don't forget the tender and juicy star of the show, picanha. To relieve red meat fatigue, Rodizios usually offer an array of non-beef options like sausage, slow-roasted pork shoulder, lamb, and various cuts of chicken. While meat is the focus at Brazilian steakhouses, it's not the only reason people pay an arm and a leg for all-you-can-eat food. Other staples at these restaurants include the country's beloved cheese bread, called Fogo de Chao, tapioca, and yucca fries, fried bananas, and a grilled pineapple that is usually seasoned with cinnamon. There's also a wide selection of garnishes and sauces to complement your meat.